Hello, today is June 18th, 2024. I'm meeting today with Mr. John Kennedy at his home in Loveland, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans History Project. Welcome, John, and thanks for sitting down today to tell your story.
Good.
Let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, and where you were born.
Well, July the 19th, 1921,
And where were you born, John?
in St. Boniface, Manitoba.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your family, your parents and your siblings, and a little bit about growing up there.
Well, my dad was Philip Kennedy. He was in the First World War. And he was slightly wounded in something, but in his leg. And I finally coaxed him to report what happened to him.
Yeah.
And well, he got a small pay of $50 a month, which is better than nothing. And I can't. What else have they?
And how did he get wounded? Did he ever tell you?
Well, there was something. He was in the Canadian Army,
Uh-huh.
and there's some situation that went on, and I don't know how, where exactly he was when he was hit by this bullet, in his leg, but it wasn't, it was just a glance.
Okay.
And after the war, I finally coaxed him, because he never bothered this reporter. And I said,
Yeah.
why don't you report it? I said, they owe you something. Oh, he says, I don't know. But he finally did, so they wind up giving him $50 a month, better than nothing.
Yeah. Was he totally disabled, or because he still work, or
no? But he had a little limp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was a driver for the Winnipeg Electric Company, the passenger deal, and trying to think, and probably be. Like I said, I finally talked him into the situation. Wasn't he got a little bit of pension? I think it was about $50 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
But and I joined the Air Force. I think it was the 17th of May, is it?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Well, let me back up, though, John, and ask you a little bit more about your childhood. Did you have any siblings?
I was the oldest.
Uh-huh.
I had Charlie, my brother, and the youngest was my sister, Louise.
Okay. The three of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was it, do you remember, was your family affected by the Great Depression at all?
Well, my dad worked for the Winnipeg Electric Company. He was a driver for the streetcar.
Okay.
And I don't think that it affected him.
Oh, good.
He kept the job.
Yeah.
And he kept working right through. And but there was a lot of people lost their jobs for unemployment, and no, he was one of the lucky ones that was still operating those streetcars and buses,
Okay.
for the Winnipeg transport company or whatever it was called then. And,
You have any fond memories of your childhood? Any stories that you like to tell?
well, we lived in southeast of the city. We lived in the French-speaking town called Saint Boniface, and Winnipeg was across the Red River from us. And the airport was in the west of the city, Winnipeg. So when these planes come in, for landing, well, I mean, they were pretty low when they were flying over where we were.
Oh. Do you think that's the reason you eventually joined the Air Force?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to ride out there. Give me a ride! When the airplane would fly over. My parents weren't exactly go for it. They were, because the airplane with the engine, and I liked that. But they figured it was bother them with this airplane noise.
Yeah.
But I joined the Air Force in 1940. Was it May the 17th, was it?
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you were a kid, you played hockey up there too. Remember?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, did you speak French or did your family speak English? Or both?
Oh, I spoke, my mother's French.
Oh, okay.
She was born in France.
Okay.
So when we spoke English when my dad was there,
Uh-huh.
because his background, several generations go back, that his family came from Ireland.
Ah.
And on my mother's side, my mother was born in France, but when they came to Canada, I think she was like 4 years old. And then she learned to speak English, she said, as well as speaking her own language of French. So, and
And your father was probably in France in World War I. Is that where he got wounded?
he was wounded, and he finally listened to me.
Yeah.
And to, get a pension for it.
Sure. Yeah.
Which he did. It wasn't much. I think
Yeah.
it was $50 a month or something, whatever. And
Now, Carol said you played hockey.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And
You said your mom didn't like it because you got hit in the nose.
oh yeah, well that's right. It was
Yeah, no protection.
No.
it was a penalty shot. See, and the goalie, it was shot. The goalie stopped it and fired it back. I was still on one knee,
Oh, no.
and the puck came and hit me right in the nose. Have you ever come? How heavy those pucks were?
Yeah.
And hard. Boy, that hit me right in the snout. Oh,
His mom was
Nose.
furious. Yeah.
my nose started to bleed, and when I came home, my nose was swollen, and my mother said, what happened? I said, well, that stupid game, because she had no time for hockey.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Would you guys just go clear the snow off a pond? Would you guys go just clear the snow off a pond and play on the pond, or did you have an ice rink?
Yeah. And then we skated the river that ran.
Oh, okay.
The river ran behind us and made a big circle. It would come to by well, you might have to call it the front, but it was, I forget how far from us, maybe 150 feet.
Uh-huh.
But it was kind of low. We were higher where the river was.
Right.
And and I joined the Air Force. I think was the 17th.
Yep.
Yep.
But before that, you worked in your uncle's printing shop. Do you remember that?
My uncle's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You worked in the printing shop
Yeah.
with him, learning how to. Oh, and you also said when you were younger, you worked at the airport cleaning airplane parts, and you didn't get paid. They gave you a chocolate bar every once in a while.
What was I doing?
Cleaning airplane parts. Do you remember that?
Oh,
At the airport in Winnipeg? You said you were pretty young and you'd go over there and you asked them if you could help clean the airplane parts because you were interested in it.
my memory's not so good. I
Oh, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
can't remember that.
Yeah.
Now, before you joined the Air Force, did you ever get a ride? Had you ever been up in an airplane before? Did you ever get a ride?
Geez, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But we flew. My dad was. I couldn't believe how scared he was to fly.
Yeah.
And he'd be sitting there with, they put us in first class, and he's sitting there with a big coffee can where he was ready to puke.
That was when we were little, and he flew his folks out to visit us. Yeah, that's just skipping around a little bit. But
So, England was already at war when you joined? Had they already been at war with Germany?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I joined, was it 17th of May?
Yes.
40,
Yeah.
Yeah.
1940.
Yep.
And you were telling a story off camera about how you ran into some friends when you went to enlist that you didn't know were joining as well.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, guys, they lived just a few blocks from where we lived in Norwood. And that's just the next section of Winnipeg,
Okay.
Winnipeg was on the west side of the Red River, and we were on the other
On the
side.
east side. Now, how long after you enlisted? How long before you went off to training? Was it much of a gap, or did you go right away?
No, we went into training. God, my memory's not so good.
That's okay.
It's
I think you went to Nova Scotia for your training, you said. That's what you told me before. And then you went to Newfoundland.
yeah. Well, we went on training at St. Thomas, Ontario,
Oh, okay.
and then when we were graduated from there, of course we were in the Air Force,
Yeah.
So then they sent us to different places in Canada, and on Newfoundland. So I went in. The first place I was sent was in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and then they hit the squadron that started up in Gander, Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I can't remember this. I visited this place on the farm, and they had this big pig, and the owner said I wouldn't go near him. He's whatever the hell he said. He was all wrong. The pig was so friendly. He'd stand up on his hind legs, he was taller than I was. His tail was going.
Yeah. Now, before you joined the service, had you traveled very far? You probably hadn't traveled too far away from home, and now you were clear across the country. Was that? Did you have any homesickness when you went away to your training?
Not really.
No.
When I was already in the service.
When you joined the service, before the service, I imagine you probably didn't travel too much away from home, and now you were clear across the other end of the country in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, the only thing we did travel was like most of the guys I knew had our own bicycles,
Yeah.
you know, and go all over the place. And yeah, when I in training was in Ontario. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was not far from
Was
the
it
lake.
Dartmouth?
Huh?
You said Dartmouth, Ontario, is where you went first before Nova Scotia.
I think so.
Yep. Yep.
Because of the lake, I can't remember whether it was. We were on the north side of the lake. That's the name of this lake, and on the other side was the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was. Went in training that I can't remember the name of the town. It was near it was a little bit south of. The name of the town was called London, you know,
Yeah.
London, Ontario.
Okay.
And yeah, I went through that training there for I forget how long. It's quite a 17, 18 months, I
Oh
think.
boy. What did you train to do in the Air Force?
I was a mechanic.
Mechanic? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, was that by choice? Did you ask for that, or did they just put you in that, or did you take tests? How did you become a mechanic?
I took tests, and they asked me what I'd like, and I told them, I said, I'd like to work on an airplane, you know, and which I did, you know, get into training and did both. After a while, when on certain, I don't know how it worked out, I wound up as a flight engineer on the you know, and the pilot, it was, I don't know exactly where it was, whether it was, see, the Russians invaded all of Europe right up to the Channel.
The Germans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where my pilot, he was hit by a bullet, you know, in his shoulder. So it was just him and I on the plane. I think it was his own airplane, and so I cleaned it up and patched it, and he says, "Okay, it's your turn." I said, "For what?" He says, "You fly it." I said, "I can't fly the airplane. I don't know how. Gonna learn." So I got in behind the controls and took everything so easy, just a little move at a time. And so he told me, you know, exactly how to do things, you know. And we made a big circle and come. And he said to me, "You landed." I said, "Yes." You out of your mind? I said, "I can't land it. Try it." And I brought it in, and the goose just barely touched it. He says, "You know what? He's made a better landing than a hell of a lot of our pilots."
Oh, be darned.
So,
What kind of plane were you in?
just I don't really know. It was a single engine job.
Oh, it wasn't a bomber or anything like that.
Pardon?
It wasn't a bomber.
No.
No.
It was I don't even know who wore this
Yeah.
thing fitted in, you know. But I made this landing, and you know, it was a good one for whether I.
For your first time.
Yeah.
There was another time, I just thought of it, that he talked about, do you remember the time that you went with your crew and the pilot flew out with I believe you were in a bomber at that time. You flew out over the ocean and the guy didn't have enough gas. And you told him he better turn around, and he told you that he knows better, and then he had to crash land. Do you remember that? And then they had to go out there after and blow up the airplane. I think it was in the Atlantic somewhere.
We crashed with the airplane?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez, I can't remember that.
Yeah, remember the pilot was kind of a crazy guy, and he told you that he knows better. You kept telling him there's not enough fuel and you need to go back.
Oh, yeah,
And he said, I know better than you. And then you ran out of fuel, and he had to crash land in the ocean.
That's right.
And you jumped out of the plane into the water, and it was freezing. And then you went out onto the wing, and then you guys got rescued, and they had to go back out and bomb the airplane to have it sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, that was one of the funny stories that it's ones that I remember.
Yeah.
It's hard for,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So you trained to be a mechanic, and then you trained to be a mechanic, and then worked on planes, and then eventually became a flight engineer. Is that right?
Well, I was, not a real flight engineer,
Yeah.
just, whatever you want to call it. Now and then I take a place.
Oh, okay.
And, which I enjoyed, you know.
Sure.
And I was in aviation. How long?
Well, you worked at Continental Airlines for over 20 years in Los Angeles, and then your military years. So, and then your Canadian military, you worked at the airplane place in Canada too, AVROE.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was in aviation a long time.
Long
Yeah.
time, probably 40 years at least,
Wow.
50 maybe. Yeah.
Do you remember your very first plane ride?
Plane ride?
Your first one? Was that in the Air Force?
Geez, I can't remember.
Okay, that's okay.
I don't think it was. It was a friend, much older than I was, had his own plane, and then took me out for a ride.
Oh, okay.
And I think that was the time. I don't figure, how old was I then?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I hadn't joined the service yet, but
Yeah.
I was like 17 years old or something.
Oh,
And
I don't
he
know.
was hit in the shoulder with a spray bullet from who knows where.
Oh, okay,
So,
right.
I
That's when you landed the plane, right?
I patched this,
Yeah.
put it in automatic, and then I patched his shoulder where it stopped bleeding, and then that's when he said,
Yeah.
"It's your turn." I said, "For what?" "To land it." I said, "I can't land it. I never landed a plane in my life."
Yeah.
"Do it." So, which I did. And he said, when I greased it in, he says, "You know what? You made a better landing than some of our real pilots."
Wow. So you were talking about earlier off camera when you were on the airbase in your training that the Americans were on that airbase too. Was that up in Newfoundland?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were on one side, and we were on the other side of the runaway. And Yeah, they used to come over. They used to like our beer.
Ah, right.
Yeah, we were very, very friendly with the U.S. You know, they were just like our brothers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was quite a, you know, it was an interesting time to be there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like I say, we were on one side of this big runaway, and the U.S. was on the other side.
Is that where planes would stop on their way to Europe?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, was the weather quite a bit different than in Manitoba?
It was what?
Was the weather quite a bit different there than in Manitoba?
You might say it was a little bit better.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always heard the weather in Newfoundland was awful.
Were you there?
No, but everyone I've ever talked to said it was always in the winter really cold.
Well, it all depends what part they were. You know, some of it was they'd have these storms and
Uh-huh.
and that, but the airport was one of the biggest on the planet, and they used to fly in from some different planes from the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and there, and then fly across the Atlantic to England.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And we were, you know, they'd get us to pitch in our time with that, with the planes that come in from the U.S. and you know, and to get ready to fly over the Atlantic.
So you would those planes would land. You would service them to get ready to go over.
Oh yeah, well I was in but I wasn't I wasn't sent over yet.
Yeah.
But I joined. When was it? May the 17th,
Yes.
1940.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When I joined the Air Force.
Yeah. Do you remember roughly how long you were in Newfoundland or in Canada before you went overseas to England?
Well, I was. I can't remember how long.
That's
I
okay.
was.
Oh, that's all.
Did I?
I think you told me one time you were there for about 18 months.
And then I went to England
Then
from
you
there.
Then you went to England for about 3 years.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay.
That's what you had told me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Approximately 1 year. Okay. Yeah. Now it says here you took a ship to England.
I took a what?
You took a ship over to England. You didn't fly. You went by ocean.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now that begs the question. Here's a boy from Manitoba going to sea. Did you get your sea legs, or how was that trip to England for you? Did you get seasick at all?
No.
No. No.
No.
One of your friends did, though. Do you remember that story? One of your friends that got seasick, he said the seas were pretty rough.
Was that Herb Heath?
I think so. He said he got sick in his cap.
Oh yeah, right. No, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
When here, instead of puking, you know, when it was by the ship, instead of puking in the ocean, that jackass is puking in his hat. Holy jeez. So I asked him, I said, what are you going to do with it now? He said, I don't know. I said, well, yeah, you might as well throw the damn thing away. So, whatever happened, I don't know. But here, instead of puking straight out in the ocean, he's puking in his hat.
Do you remember roughly how long it took you to get to England?
I can't really
That's okay.
remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Took, it wasn't fast.
Yeah. Was there any worries about German submarines?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they sent us to different parts of England where we had Canadian squadrons there.
Okay.
You know.
Uh-huh.
So
And what was it like being in England?
it wasn't bad, you know. They accepted us, you
Yeah.
know, and
Uh-huh.
we got friendly with different people, and yeah, we enjoyed it. The thing is, we liked their beer, you know.
Or you like their beer? even though they drank it warm?
Pardon?
Even though they drank it warm?
Drink what?
Used to drink their beer warm, even.
Oh yeah. Right.
You said their food was bland too.
Their what?
Their food was bland. Wasn't very good, you told me.
Oh.
The food in England.
Yeah.
And they drink tea, not coffee.
Right.
You didn't like that. Yeah.
What was life like on your base, air base? Was it comfortable? Your housing and the food and.
Oh yeah, I heard that. You know, where our bunks were, you know, where we slept. Then there was a good size mess hall
Okay.
where we used to go and have a breakfast, dinner, and supper. And yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get a chance to get out and see a little bit of England when you weren't on duty?
When I was off duty,
Yeah. Did you ever able to travel into London or visit other parts of England?
and I hitchhiked all over the place.
Yeah.
Because we were in uniform.
Uh-huh.
So if we were out the highway out there, they'd see you in uniform, they'd stop. Of course, they didn't know whether we were in English outfit or what, you know. And this particular time, it stopped, and this big truck, big transport. So it stopped, and I got in, and I looked at the driver, and I couldn't believe it. It was a young woman driving this huge truck. And the first time she said that she met a Canadian. I said, well, take a look. I said, you know, I got my ears the same way as everybody else, you know. Kidding her, you know.
Yeah.
And I met an English actor came up and visited us. I can't remember his name. He's a well-known actor. The first time he ever met a Canadian.
Huh.
You said you rented bicycles too. Rode bicycles around in England.
Oh yeah.
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 When you weren't hitchhiking, you rode bike, and
Right.
you went to that resort called Blackpool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You told me that.
That was on the ocean side. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, he saw quite a bit of England.
Oh,
when he
yeah.
was there. You know, when he always said the guys would all go to the pub, and he wanted to go see the countryside. And
well, I did, right. I wanted to see what all this place go. I traveled all over England
Oh, wonderful.
with some of these other guys. I mean, they spent all their time in the pub.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, when you got into London, was there a lot of damage from the bombing?
There was.
Yeah. Were you ever there when it came under attack?
One time I was, and it was just it bombed, might say, maybe a couple blocks from where I was.
A couple blocks.
That's how close the bomb was.
Oh.
It dropped, and I got friendly there with a couple of English police officers, and they had never met a Canadian before.
Yeah.
You know, so I joked, you know, and I said, "Well, take a look. I got like 2 ears, you know." Yeah.
Well, they probably like the Canadians better than the Americans. Do you think, or not?
I don't. I never really
Yeah.
heard
Yeah.
anything against the U.S. You know.
Yeah.
And in fact, we'd meet in the pub and there, and we'd drink our beer at the same time, and stuff like that. Became friendly with different. Didn't like for the U.S. military and the Canadian and English and that. And sometimes you'd wind up seeing them, and then the three of us in 3 different countries would join together, have a few beers and I forget how long. Can you remember how long I was over there?
3 years. Looks like.
Yeah, about 3 years, you said.
3 years.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you were you on the ground crew, or did you ever go on any missions to the continent with the?
Well, I did with the odd time go on the continent, but I was a ground crew mechanic.
Okay. And what planes did you work on? What type of planes? The bombers or the fighter planes or?
Oh, the bombers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Canadians, they flew the Lancaster. Is that or did they fly American airplanes, or did Canada have its own airplane?
Yeah, we had our own, and in fact, when this pilot I got acquainted with, he had his own airplane. See.
Oh, okay.
So I went up.
Yeah.
He said, "Come on up." So I went up with him. And I don't know exactly what happened, but we were on close to the channel between England and Europe.
Yeah.
And a bullet came up and hit him in the shoulder.
Huh.
And he's bleeding. So I put the plane in automatic, and I fixed his wound. And so he said, "Okay." He says, "Fly it." I said, "What?" That's the plane is not automatic. He said, "You can't blow it, land it automatic." He says, "You're going to have to fly it and land it."
Oh.
I just go. So, okay. So I give it a shot, brought it in and greased her in. He told me, he said, "You know what?" He says, "You made a better landing than a hell of a lot of our pilots."
Wow. Did that give you any desire to become a pilot after that?
Well, I was a mechanic.
Yeah. But after landing that plane, did you think to yourself, maybe
No,
I ought to become a
No, I
pilot?
stayed as a
Yeah.
mechanic, and
Yeah.
but that was the only time I ever was in the controls of an airplane, and luckily, I guess you could call it that, I made a nice greased landing.
Wow. What would you guys do when you weren't on duty for entertainment and to kill the time?
Oh yeah, we had right where we were stationed, we had I forget what they call it, where the beer was and all this other stuff, and I can't remember what else they call it. Where we enjoyed ourselves,
Uh-huh.
And, But we got in a lot of cases, some of the U.S. guys had come over and where we had our own pub or whatever you want to call it, where we drank, and some of the U.S. guys would be in there, and we got acquainted with them, and the guy would say, the reason why they're coming over is we like your beer.
Yeah. And you like their cigarettes, right? The American cigarettes?
I don't know whether I smoked that or not.
Yeah. But would you guys trade beer for cigarettes, or?
Oh,
No.
maybe some of them did.
Yeah, right.
But I quit smoking there.
Ah.
I didn't smoke much anyway, but
Yeah.
I looked at my cigarette one time. I said, "What am I doing with this darn thing anyway?"
Yeah.
So I tossed it, and I never smoked again.
You said you used to play cards a lot too, with the fellas in your squadron.
Yeah.
Play cards at night and just pass the time, listen to the radio. Yeah.
Would you ever go to any shows where entertainers came over from Canada and the United States, like Bob Hope or anything like that? Was there any
Yeah, some of them. I remember came over and we met some of them,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was good. I mean, there were a lot of entertainment people, that would drop by there, and then they'd fly over to England,
No. Yeah.
and yeah, it worked out good for us, and
Yeah. Now, when you were in England, did you ever run into anybody from back home?
well, I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
Probably did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I met, what was that actor's name?
Well, you said you met an English actor, but I don't I don't know his name.
Yeah, he
We
was,
never could think about it.
I can't remember his name either. And I was the first Canadian he ever met.
Wow.
And, yeah, we got along good over there, and
Yeah. How was the weather?
in England.
Yeah.
Well, in some cases it wasn't bad, but most of the time it was like kind of humid.
Yeah, rainy and foggy and
Yeah.
yeah. But it sounds like it was lush and green.
The what?
It sounds like the landscape was lush and green.
Oh, yeah, it was chilly.
In Chile, yeah.
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 Sometimes it was nice, but
Yeah. Did you interact or mingle with the locals at all? Did you have much to do with the local people?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They, we'd go in some of the pubs, and of course we were in uniform, and they'd come there and introduce themselves and wish us, Wadsworth in England, and yeah, they were friendly people.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you remember where you were when the war ended? Do you remember that day at all?
I don't know whether I was still in England or what. I can't actually
I think you
remember.
were. Yeah.
But I was in England for quite a bit.
3 years, so I'm sure you were. You
Yeah,
probably stayed till the war ended.
Yeah, we had our own Canadian squadron.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were in there for quite a while, and
I just was wondering if you remember if there was any sort of celebration when the war got over, and that's okay.
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
And then do you remember roughly how much longer you stayed in England after the war before you came home? Or was it fairly soon after?
It wasn't very long.
Yeah. Okay. And did you take a ship back again, or did you fly?
No, we took a ship
Yeah.
because we had a good-sized ship because we had quite a few veterans, that
Yeah. Yeah.
on the way back to Canada.
Were you stacked pretty high with the beds?
Was that what?
Were the beds stacked pretty high where you slept? And
Oh.
the bunks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was I think there was only 2 levels, and I always wind up taking the bottom one
Yeah.
because even then, I had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom.
Right,
So it's better if I had the bottom level.
Yeah. Yeah. But not so good if someone above you had to throw up.
Yeah. Yeah, this I don't know where it was, but we were mixed in with civilians, and
Okay.
this fat woman, I had the bottom, 2 bunks, the level and the next one above. So I had the bottom one, and here's this big fat woman, English woman, trying to get up on the top level. So I told her, take the bottom one.
Right.
I said, I'll go on the top. So she thanked me so much, and it didn't bother me sleeping up another level.
Yeah.
And yeah, I forget how long was I in England?
About 3 years.
3 years. Huh?
Yeah.
That's a long time to be away from home.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but I met a lot of I met a few
Yeah.
nice people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, it was. And if I had a free time, I try to travel as much as I could in England, and it wasn't bad at all.
How was it after being away from home for more than 3 years, because you were in training? You're
Yeah.
basically away from home for 4
Yeah.
years. What was that like, your homecoming? Do you remember that when you finally came back home after the war?
Yeah, I remember. I came back by train.
Uh-huh. Did your parents meet you at the train station?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. It was pretty nice, to see. And my dad said, "You know what?" He says, "You look like you're growing pretty good. You're nearly an adult." But I already was an adult.
Yeah. Well, you went away as a boy and came back as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but I stayed in aviation. For how long was I in aviation?
Probably 40 years at
Really?
least. Yeah.
Yeah. So after you got out of the service, you went to work went into aviation as your career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went down to California, and I got into aviation there.
Yeah.
So it was.
Well, it sounds like before California, you went to Toronto,
Yeah,
and that's where you started your aviation career.
right.
Yeah.
Because I was 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I stayed in because I liked aviation.
Yeah, sure.
Not like, in fact, where we lived back in, it wasn't in the city of Winnipeg. It was
Yeah.
in the city of St. Boniface. And since my mother was French, so we lived in St. Boniface, which is a lot of French families, you know that, and so we wind up speaking both languages, and it was quite something, you know.
Yeah. So you went to Toronto and as a mechanic, and then got on eventually with Continental.
Well, yeah, I went in Toronto, and then we went on training to this, I forget, I don't know if it was called St. Thomas or what, but it was south, just a few miles, south of the city of London, Ontario.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was when you were in the military. So
Yeah.
after you got out of the military, you went back to Toronto for a while and you lived there and you worked in aviation, and then you met Mom and you got married and had kids, and then you found out about job opportunities in California, and you moved all of us from Canada down to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, he didn't have a job.
Oh,
He
wow.
just moved us. He
Oh.
bought an old. Do you remember the truck you bought? It was an old, like a newspaper delivery truck, and he converted it into a moving van. And we all 1963, no 64, moved down.
Wow.
Came across, the old Route 66, all the way into LA. He went to the airport, went to the airlines, applied, and got a job like that, and started within they wanted him to start the next day, and we didn't even have a place to live yet.
Wow. What
So,
a story.
yeah. So it was pretty incredible to leave a country, come here, and start a job.
Well,
and
not to mention, I mean, if you're young and single, but to
Yeah.
have a family.
a family.
Wow,
yeah.
what an adventure.
Could you excuse?
Well, where we left off, we were talking about that great adventure you took when you packed the family up in Toronto and drove all the way to California to find a job with Continental.
Yeah. Yeah, that was quite a trip.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a long distance.
Yeah. Well, and quite a risk to take, really.
Yeah.
With no job and
Sold their house and just
wow.
packed up 3 kids and moved. And it's funny, he always told me when he crossed the border, they had to get all their paperwork in order. And John F. Kennedy had been assassinated
Oh, right. Yeah.
in 63,
Uh-huh.
I think. So in 64, because his name's John Kennedy, the Border Patrol guy said, "Oh, we lost one last year and now we're gaining one." That's
Oh.
what he told him, yeah. Because they had the same name.
That's a long trip.
Yeah.
Toronto
Toronto to California.
Wow.
You
yeah,
bet.
to Southern California.
Well, you said I don't remember much of it because I was young, but we made a vacation out of it, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Took the old Route 66 and
Well, I want to back up, John, and
Pardon?
I want to back up and ask you how you met your wife, and talk about how you met your wife and wooed her and.
I can't remember.
No.
you met at a dance hall. You asked her to dance and she said no.
Oh,
Yep. And then she finally said yes. Yeah. That's what you told me. Yep.
yeah, but there's something happened there. Somebody, or was it her that dumped something on top of my head?
No, I don't know. That might have happened. She was pretty feisty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And they got married in 1954, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. That picture on top of the thing there is them on their honeymoon in Niagara Falls. Yeah. Or Buffalo. That area. Yeah. But.
Is that when we headed for California?
Well, after that, you got married in 1954, and we came to California in 1964. Yeah. 10 years later. So you were in Toronto for 10 years. Yeah, you were working and raising a family before you said, the heck with this, is mainly that you had a friend that told you about California and you wanted to get out of the snow. So we headed south.
So that must have been nice going from Toronto to sunny Southern California to the nice weather and the palm trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had a chance to, they built up a squadron or whatever in Hawaii.
Oh.
And they asked me if I wanted to go there to Hawaii. Then I started thinking about it, Yeah, but I said, I don't want to be stranded over there. And I'd rather stay where the hell I am, so they got somebody else to go.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed in California.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, it was, I was in aviation for quite some time.
yeah, 40 years.
Yeah.
You spent your whole career then with Continental?
Pardon?
You spent your whole career with Continental Airlines, or did you work for other airlines?
No, Continental.
Wow.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
He retired when they merged with United.
United,
And it was in the early 80s when they started going computerized and this and that. And he was like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah, I was in aviation pretty well all my life.
And you enjoyed it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, good.
Something I liked doing,
Oh, yeah.
And I liked airplanes since I was a little kid.
Yeah, yeah.
They used to, because we lived in the southern part of St. Boniface, which is across the river from Winnipeg, the Red River, and the airplanes would come in to land at Stevenson Field.
Uh-huh.
So in most cases, they'd be lower, to make a landing there. So they were not real low, but they were fairly low.
Yeah.
Flying over. So when they'd come over, be out there, little kids say, "Give me a ride."
Now, in your career with Continental, did you take advantage of the travel? Did you travel quite a bit to take trips?
I can't remember. Probably did.
Yeah. Did you ever go back to England to where you were? Did you ever ever travel back and?
Yeah, I went back. Yeah, I went visited back in England, and some of the people I had met before, I looked up to,
yeah.
hello and whatever, and yeah, when I was in England, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
They treated us, nice.
Yeah, when he worked for Continental, we traveled a lot.
Oh, good.
Because he
Yeah.
got passed,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so in the summertime or whenever, us kids would be bored, and he'd be like, "Well, let's just go here for a week, or whatever." And you literally could just walk on the plane for free, or it was like $20 a person.
Yeah.
It was like and it was so fun because back then they'd let him in the cockpit, and
right.
kids could go up and look at it was just such a different world, and
But I landed a plane one time after the pilot was hit by a bullet.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I never did that in my life,
Yeah.
And he was, you know, I fixed his wound and that. And he said, okay. He said, it's your turn.
Yeah.
I says, for what? Fly it. I said, well, I said, I never flown an airplane in my life. Now's a good time. So I got on behind the controls and just eased everything nice and slow. And I made the landing. And they were just saying, you know, that one of the smoothest landings, you know, from regular pilots.
Yeah.
Well, I said, well, the first time I ever landed an airplane. And I tried to make it as smooth as possible. And
Yeah.
And the last trip we took was we took him to Hawaii
Huh?
and on United, and he was 96, I think, 96 or 97, and he flew. We had him do first class so he'd be
Yeah,
comfortable,
yeah.
and he loved it. I mean, he had those ladies up there telling him old Continental stories, and some of those flight attendants were pretty old too,
Oh,
so
right.
they remembered when
Uh-huh.
United took over Continental, and so that was the last time he flew, but that was pretty cool that he got to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll bet from the beginning when you used to watch the planes fly over your house until the day you retired, you saw a lot of changes with
Oh, yeah.
aviation.
in fact, when I was a little kid, they used to, for the landing, they'd fly, not right over the house, but,
Yeah.
you know, fairly close. And we'd run out the yard and say, give me a ride.
But what I'm asking is, I mean, those planes that you saw then compared to the planes now have really you've seen a lot of change in aviation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the ones now are mostly all jet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're noisier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was, I spent most of my time in aviation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked airplanes since I was a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of hobbies did you have when you weren't working? What sort of things did you enjoy doing?
What, after?
Well, when you weren't on working or after you retired, did you have hobbies or things that you like to do?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell me.
Well, you used to like to travel, but you used to go by car.
Yeah.
And he would always tell me, I've flown my whole life and now I want to drive.
Yeah.
Because I can't see things from up in the clouds. And I want to be able to see where I'm going. So when he retired, he bought himself a 1979 Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
Oh,
A
nice.
big boat. And he had friends from Continental that lived in Maine and lived on the East Coast. And then after my mom passed away, he drove everywhere, traveled, went up to Canada to see his sister, drove that Cadillac everywhere. It was funny, and that he loved to travel. That was probably his biggest hobby.
Yeah.
Still, he could go, he went to Europe probably 7-8 times after he retired with Continental, flew over there on pass. A lot of times they put him in first class, which is wonderful, and he loved that. But then it was road trips. He loved driving. That was his second love. So
What was some of your favorite places to travel to? Do you have favorite places that you enjoyed in all your travels?
Well, I can't really remember.
Yeah.
Several nice places.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
you always told me you liked Scotland and Ireland.
Ah.
Yeah, you went there.
well, in Ireland, that's where our ancestors came from, the Kennedys.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you went to one of the towns that some of our ancestors may have lived in. Yeah.
Which ones?
I don't remember which ones they were. On the Kennedy side, but I don't remember the name of the town. You told me before, but I can't remember.
God, I can't either.
Yeah. I know, but that was a nice trip. You said you liked Ireland. And it's just amazing to be able to do that.
Well, that's where our ancestors came from,
Right.
but that was a long time before.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
He took a cruise down to the Bahamas.
Nice.
Yeah. That was a fun trip that he did. It was all after my mom passed.
Yeah.
You know, but, yeah.
Now, how long were you married before your wife passed?
pardon?
How many years were you married before your wife passed?
Let's see.
God, I can't remember.
Yeah.
A little bit over 40 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh,
A little bit over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah. And she didn't like to travel much. So
No.
she's kind of a homebody. So he had the travel bug when he was after she passed.
Yeah, she was from Nova Scotia.
Ah,
Yep.
beautiful island.
She
Yeah.
spoke French too. When I was
what?
She spoke French as well.
Well, they spoke it before she learned to speak English.
Right. Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, it was where they came from was a little town. I can't remember the name of the place. It was
Petite de Gras. Remember
was that it?
Yep. Yeah, that's where she grew up.
Ah,
It's a little fishing village up there in Nova Scotia.
yeah. What's it called? When you try to pronounce it in English, it's what? A little fat?
Yeah, something like that. Little fat.
Yeah.
And do you remember what Nova Scotia means?
Nova Scotia? New Scotland.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you told me that years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would always speak in French when they didn't want us kids to know what they
right.
were saying. Because none of my siblings spoke French.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it was funny. Yeah.
So you had 3 children
Yeah.
and grandchildren, great grandchildren?
Just grandchildren so
Yeah.
far. Three grand boys.
3
Yeah.
grand. Okay.
Yeah. Grandsons. Yeah.
Did you ever, through the years, did you ever keep in touch with anybody that you served with in the Air Force? Did you have any reunions, anything like that?
Well, I did with Herb Heath, and he was he got married, and,
Uh-huh.
and he was in I can't remember exactly where it was, but then he passed away, you know, and his I can't remember whether he had any children or not, but I don't know what happened to him, but he just just died. you know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, when he would go visit his sister in Winnipeg, he would sometimes see some of his old friends. Yeah, and then of course, they all lost touch, and
Right.
my cousins would let him know from the newspaper articles if somebody passed away. Yeah, so because he was kind of far away, so we really wasn't in touch too much. Yeah.
Well, John, as we kind of start to wind down this interview, is there any stories that you wanted to tell that you can remember, or is anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you about? And Carol, I know we've only got the tip of the iceberg of your story, but hopefully we got a good chunk of it. Is there anything else that we could add to round out your story?
God, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
But, maybe you could
And
help.
Carol, any stories through the years that he did?
I can't think of any other ones. I wish he could remember some of the ones that he's told me over the years that he could tell, but I can't think of anything else. Yeah.
Well, the last question I like to ask in these interviews, John, as you look at the time that you were in the Air Force during the war, did that change your life, play a role in your life, affect your life at all, or was it just a chapter in your life? How would you?
Just a chapter.
Just a chapter, yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't. Don't think I changed much.
Yeah. It directed you to your career, though. It helped you with your.
In aviation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I gave him all his training and
Yeah.
experience for sure. Yeah.
Everywhere I went, I wound up in aviation.
Yeah.
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 I'd liked it ever since I was a little kid, and they used to fly
Yeah.
over, starting making their landings in Winnipeg, like in the direction that were out. You know, we lived in the suburbs of St. Boniface, not Winnipeg, St. Boniface. And because the reason we lived there, because my mother was French speaking.
Yeah.
And when we got airplanes would be flying low, give me a ride.
Wow. Well, John, I want to thank you for sitting down to tell your story today. It's a wonderful story.
Well,
I want to wish you an early happy birthday next month. You'll be 103, so that's wonderful. Did you ever think you would live this long?
I really never even thought about it,
No.
you know.
Yeah.
And things just came along, and
Yeah.
I've always felt good.
Oh, good.
You know, I've always been very, very lucky in my health.
Yeah.
And I still am.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. For 103, you're in wonderful condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I, 103?
Next month you'll be 103.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You're just shy of it.
Wow.
And he always wanted to make it to 100. That was
Yeah.
his goal all the years prior. So he's actually the oldest in his whole family. He's had aunts that have lived to 90, 98, 99, but that's it. So
Wow.
he's lived the longest. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you very much, John. I enjoyed hearing your story.
You are welcome. And I think, try as much as possible to give you some good information.
And you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
His brother Charlie, who was 2 years younger than him. And this is John with his sister Louise, who was 10 years younger than him. Okay, so this is John Kennedy, my dad, when he joined the Canadian Air Force, 1940, at the age of 18. And this is his friend Henry Froschek, that he joined the Canadian Air Force with in 1940. 1940, John sitting on a park bench. This is John with his friend Herb Heath after joining the military in 1940. And this is a photo of John in the Air Force, May of 1940, after enlisting. This is their training camp in St. Thomas, Ontario, Canada.
And that's him right there, correct?
Correct. So this is John in St. Thomas, Ontario, May of 1940, after enlisting in the Canadian Air Force. This is John with his friend Sid in England, 1942, on base. And this is John in Gimli, Manitoba. This was May 1948, working on a B-25 bomber. And this is John when he worked as a mechanic with AVROE Aircraft Company in Malton, Ontario, Canada. This is John and Dorothy on their wedding, September 1954, in Toronto, Canada.
And this is John's discharge papers, military papers. Okay.
And this is a picture of a letter from the Queen thanking him for his service in World War II.
And this one is a certificate from Canada thanking John for his sacrifice and service during World War II.